Alrighty, so I've got more than 2 hours today to play around with the system. Let me show you where I got up to yesterday. I didn't film too much of it, but it's all just joining wires and shortening things and whatnot. I'm going to go through with you right now what we've got rid of and what we've got left in here, and you'll be amazed how neat this actually is now.
So we couldn't go without checking this out.
Right, pairing up wires now. G'day Keithy here. G'day Keithy here. G'day Keithy here. Okay, so I'll start over here. I've got this panel back in, so all of the wires that need to be hidden underneath here are hidden in behind. There's not too many of them. Underneath the car, I've got the Anderson plug rewired on the nice 6BNS wire, pos and neg. You can't even see that here. Obviously this is the negative from the Anderson plug down the bottom, main negative here. This here is for our reverse light, so that just connects up to the little box that goes on top of here, and that's all good. This is positive and negative that will go to the battery charger. So you can see I've got nothing connected to the battery at the moment. Up here is our solar from the roof solar panels. This one here is a switch for the air compressor, so that switches and clicks straight on there. That runs the air compressor. So up here you can see these ones here that are going to go to the box that sits here. That's for the two-way radio. And then we've got obviously the power feed here for the air compressor, which is going to go directly to the battery rather than to the bus bars because it does draw a bit of current. That's that side there, and you see this positive one here. That's from the main battery, which is going to go to the charger for a fuse. So it's looking much neater in there. I've got rid of quite a lot of wiring in that. Once that's all connected up, it'll look completely better. You'll see in a couple of minutes that one. So it's looking much neater in there. As you can see, I've got the battery back in and I've got this trim panel back in there. So let's move over to the box now. Here's the box. So this is the back of the box, obviously. That sits up on those two little bolts that are there. So haven't we neatened that up? So we've got rid of stuff up here that we didn't need. We've reorganized all of these. That vacant one there is obviously for that one there, which is for the reverse light. That's this reverse light here, just so you know. And then obviously battery terminal positive, battery terminal negative. Looking very, very neat, very organized. So you can see I've got the MIDI fuses mounted on top of this box. This one here's for the solar, and this one here's from the main battery. So that red wire up here will connect to that right there. If you look on the other side of the box, it doesn't look much different other than the red arc stuff has now disappeared from there. And these fuses here won't even be noticed once the cover is back on, the fascia panel is back on. So that's that. Then we move over to the fascia panel itself. The back of this is looking rather neat. So obviously I've neatened up the compressor switch wiring. So this one here has to go to the bus bar, which is on the back of this. I will shorten that when the time comes. That's just for the switch to know that it can activate when it wants to. This here obviously goes to its own little switch, which is on the back of this here. And we've got our outlets. All of these outlets are now running from the bus bar, which is very good. No major changes there other than that top one, which used to run to the main battery. And this is the back of our charger. So our charger's mounted just on the other side here. We've got all our wiring here. So I've got the ones that will go directly to the new, to the auxiliary battery. They're on via an Anderson plug. So that's this one here, which I haven't connected up for obvious reasons. And then we've got from the main battery, from the main battery. So it'll go onto the fuse up the top here. And then this one here is from the solar panels. So that will go to the other MIDI fuse, which sits on top of the box over there. So that's fantastic there. This is your temperature switch, so I'll hook that up to the battery once we go to mount that up. On the other side of this, you will see the projector is now mounted. It's all ready to go. I've got a new little switch for the ARB air compressor, so I'll put that on there. A new little button for that. Everything else on here remains the same, so before I reinstall it, I'll just give this a little quick vacuum up. I've got a little bit of dust on here and there. But all in all, it's looking rather neat. And it's ready to go back on. So I've got my nuts and bolts that I need to put this all back together. It's only a couple of nuts. And this here, ladies and gentlemen, these are all the wires that I have removed out of this whole thing here. You wouldn't believe it, but that is every wire that I don't need, that was excessive. So if I've shortened things, that's it all right there. There's tons and tons of wiring there now. So I'm glad to be rid of that and back to something very simple like that. So once this box is back up and installed, which I'm going to do directly, it's going to look much neater in here because obviously these wires have a place to go on there. So I'm going to do that and I will show you the finished product. I've also extended the wiring from that two-way radio there, the external speaker wiring. So everything down here is just nice and neat and it's got its purpose. It's not hard to trace anything. There's nothing there that doesn't need to be there. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. So I've connected up the battery charger, solar and power in. Obviously I've got a MIDI fuse at the front of the car, which is not connected at the moment. So there's no power actually coming from the alternator yet. And I've got this isolated, so there's no power coming from the solar, which is right there. So that's really good. So I've got all the wires on these connectors here that just connect up to that side there when this is folded back in and closed. And here it is in all its glory, the completed job. Looking fantastic. You wouldn't even know it was a bombshell in there about 2 hours ago. That's the airline from the ARB compressor, power and pressure switch from the ARB compressor. So that's neatened up quite a lot. Everything's in there nice and tucked away. You can see I've replaced the compressor switch with a new one that's got an actual on-off switch on it. We've got all working and tested outlets. That's where my fridge plugs in. That's where the extra solar can come in. But otherwise, my main solar line's up there. Looking good, and you can see the projector doing its thing. Charging the main battery at the moment, funny enough. You can see we've got our voltage here. And all of the other gear up here. Unchanged from what you last saw. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrap. The drawers, I've been given a vacuum and they're back in now. We've got all of our setup doing its thing over here as usual. Just got to put the fridge back in. Some of you might remember the box that was up on the top here, which was my Marvel Comics box. Well, I've managed to condense a lot of the stuff that was in that box. So that was all just tools and air springs and things like that. So I've transformed this drawer here, which was formerly tools and all that kind of stuff as well, in the camping type gear. I've condensed that box down to fit in there and also underneath the drawers here. So if you open up this drawer here, mind you, these aren't pre-packed, so you can pull that drawer out. You can take it all the way out, to be honest. And in there I've got my tools, I've got air springs in there, I've got my jack, all of the jack stuff is in there. I've got quite a lot of stuff, some spare parts, thermostats and things like that. It's quite a full little spot, but it's now taking place of that big box up there. So what does that mean? We've got more storage in the back of the car now, so we can put the shopping or we can put clothing or whatever we need to do when we're going out on a trip. I'll close this big fella up. And that is it. I am completely satisfied with that job there. As you can see, the projector's doing its thing right there now. Quite happily feeding the alternator a little bit of current. This will be 13.4 volts, any money. Perfecto. And that's a wrap for the dual battery system upgrade. Something that should have only taken 1 day, and in theory, if I'd worked one whole day at it, it probably would have been done in one. But I had to do other things in between, school runs, all that kind of stuff. And all the housework and all the usual stuff here. So it's taken quite a lot of time. I'm rather impressed by the outcome. It looks good. All of these points are now usable, all three of them. Everything else remains the same other than the projector charger there. Given the drawers a bit of a vacuum and cleaned up and got them back in. And like I said before, I'm very happy that I've managed to get rid of the Marvel box. So that can be used as a trip box now. So if we go away on a big trip, I can put spare parts and things into that rather than have to clutter the back of the car up with it. And the poor kids have a little bit less footroom. Anyway, thank you for watching. It's been a bit of an epic. Thanks for sticking around, and we'll catch you next time.